If anybody's on live, let me know you can see me, as I can't see myself. Let's just make sure we're on for the Facebook family. Okay, we are live on both. Good evening and welcome to your weekly edition of Top Tip Tuesday. My name is Genesis, aka the Nutri Guy, and this is a little weekly slot whereby I will share some top tips on a specific subject with you guys, and then at the end, if anybody's around, I'll answer a few questions for you guys. Okay. And I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody would like to join us. And then if not, I'll jump straight in. So this week's topic, I will be talking about sharing my top tips on how to get yourself in calorie deficit. And pretty much what that means is today, we're talking about weight loss. That's what we're going to be talking about, weight loss. So if you have any questions, by all means, save those or fire those away, and I'll answer those as I go along. Okay. What do I make it? 31. I'll give it another minute, and then we'll log in. We'll get started. For anybody who's already on live, please feel free to chat to me. Let me know who you are, where you at, what you're doing, whilst we stall for others to join us. Okay. And last week I talked about my top 5 foods for you to incorporate into your diet to help actually boost your immunity. As we're starting to re-socialize and go back out, some people's immunity may be slightly compromised. So it was only right that I share something along those lines. And I shared a few foods as well. For anybody who missed that, check it out, scroll back, and you can see that. Okay, so make it a minute past. I'm going to jump straight in. So in terms of the topic for this week, I was thinking, again, I always try and get my inspiration from you guys out there, or my patients, or what I hear is going on, or what's troubling people, and what people want to know about. And in this week, it's pretty much about weight loss. As obviously lockdown is easing up in the UK, we all are now actually able to get out, move around more. I know the gyms are back open again, so people are getting back into the gyms. And obviously the main reason for that is, quite put simply, is because many people put on a bit of that lockdown weight, right? I don't know if anybody out there feels the same way too, but I know many people put on that lockdown weight. So naturally, the first thing people wanted to do was either get moving around, walking around more, or straight away jump straight back into the gym. And obviously for many people, it's not a surprise. You know, one of the most popular topics right now is losing weight. You know, like I said, the weather's getting better, summer's going to be coming up, so naturally people want to lose weight. So I thought I'll share with you guys something on that topic. Good evening, Terry on Insta. How you doing, my guy? Welcome. Thank you for joining, you sexy young man, you. Today what we're talking about is it's Top Tip Tuesday. And every Tuesday I'm trying to share tips with you guys on a particular subject that you can obviously apply straight away. And this week I'm sharing my top tips on how to get yourself into calorie deficit. As I was saying, the main reason we're talking about this is because during lockdown many people put on weight, and obviously as a nutritionist, naturally this is a question that's not unique to lockdown for me. This is a question I get asked all the time in my profession, and it's usually, what is the best way to lose weight, G? And if I'm honest with you, the simple answer to that is, quite put simply, calorie deficit. This is the part whereby I might become a bit unpopular, especially for people who may have tried diets and supplements and potions and all of these different things in terms of losing weight. I'm going to tell you now, if you've ever lost weight, I don't care if it was through the Atkins diet, if it was through intermittent fasting, if it was through keto, whatever way you lost weight, I can guarantee you there's only one way on this planet a person is ever going to lose weight, and that is through calorie deficit. And that's what we're going to talk about today. My top tips I'm going to share with you is how to actually get yourself in calorie deficit that works for you. All of these diets and all of these things, all they do is pretty much actually get you into a calorie deficit in a way that's conducive and suitable to your lifestyle or your personal preferences and things like that. Now, what is calorie deficit? By definition, calorie deficit is something that actually occurs when the number of calories a person consumes per day is smaller than the actual number of calories they need to survive. And remember, this is the point whereby maybe it's good to touch on what a calorie is, because a lot of the time people are like, oh no, calories are bad. That's actually, impeccably speaking, not true. Calorie is actually nothing but a measure of unit of energy. That's actually all it is. You know, it's kind of like saying I've got a 40-watt light bulb versus an 80-watt light bulb. Does that mean one light bulb is better than the other? No, it doesn't. It just depends on the specific needs of the individual. That's pretty much all it is. We have to remember, calories are neither good nor bad. They're nothing but a measure of unit. That's all it is. So a lot of time people demonize calories. Oh, this is bad. Oh, no, let's not do that, guys. You know, let's call a spade, okay? And yeah, so the best way to lose weight is calorie deficit. And I want to just share with you a few tips on how to get you into calorie deficit. So towards the end, I'll share my top 7 tips on how to get yourself in calorie deficit. Because, you know, it's like that simple age-old equation for creating a calorie deficit to lose weight. Calories in minus calories out, right? That's what you would think. But it's actually not that simple. Because in terms of the actual number of calories an individual needs, that's very much specifically dependent on the individual. This is where, for a lot of my private clients, what I will do is, when we talk about macros, which are macronutrients, I will calculate the specific calories required for you. And obviously there's that generic number you get, you know, to maintain weight, 1,800 for women, 2,000 for men, and all of that. But that's very much generalization, and I don't like generalization. We're all unique. Everybody watching this, you're unique, I'm unique. We're all different, as our fingerprints are, is the way I see it. So don't like a one size fits all. I think that's where problems happen, and people are not losing the kind of weight that they want because of trying to fit into this specific box. So with calorie deficit, a few things actually determine the number of calories, first of all, an individual needs just to survive. I'll try and keep this not too technical, because, you know, I'll start talking about basal metabolic rate and total daily expenditure and things like that. But I'm trying to keep it simple for you guys. I know you guys just want the juicy stuff. How do I get into deficit, G? That's all I want to know. But it's good to give you guys the backstory. You must be educated. Otherwise, this is why a lot of these diets and things fail, because of their lack of behavior change, because you don't know what you're doing. You're just following it blindly, and then when you stop doing it, you revert back to your old behavior. Now, but I digress. Let's get back to the point here. So, the factors that actually contribute to how many calories we all need will be things like gender. Obviously, men and women need a different amount. Your age, your height, obviously your level of physical activity, depending on whether you do a lot of sport, or is it something as simple as your job is very demanding, for example, and also just generally your body composition, how you're naturally predisposed as well. Those are all things. So you see why, like, how can one size fits all when I've just told you about all of these things that make us all different? We can't have this one size fits all business. We need to understand ourselves as individuals, and therefore know what our requirements are. So a person can obviously calculate their calorie deficit in pretty much many different ways. There's a lot of calculators out there. You can obviously use equations, or you can get yourself a Nutri guy who can help you do all of that. There's so many different ways, but I think the first thing would be to get into your calorie deficit. You need to know exactly what your calorie requirement is. Once you've calculated that, it then goes back to that whole thing of how then we can talk about it. Because for a person to lose 1 to 2 pounds of fat per week, which, by the way, can I just say, has anyone ever actually seen what 1 pound of fat looks like? Like, Google 1 pound of fat, and for the purpose of visuals, 1 pound of fat would pretty much fit in this cup. That's what it would look like. It would look like fat lard, but it would fit in this cup, pretty much the size of a can of beans. That's 1 pound. That's 1 pound of fat. And usually, we aim for 1 to 2 pounds a week, because of a 500 calorie deficit is ideally what you want to be losing that. And that's quite sustainable. That's an easy amount to maintain, in terms of not making too much of a drastic change in terms of your diet. And like I said, 500 calories or more is usually what you want to be looking for. Because the truth of the matter is, I could help you lose weight quite easily, as, losing, I don't know, maybe getting you in 800 calorie deficit. But it won't be fun, and it won't be nice. You could actually lose weight by eating 1 McDonald's a day. Did you know? 1 McDonald's a day. Because what? Well, average McDonald's, Big Mac meal, etc., you're looking at about 1,800 calories. But that's not really how you want to do it. Like, let's be honest, that's not ideal. That's not the way you want to do it, because you want to make sure that you feel good. This is why a lot of diets don't work, where people crash deficit, if you want to call it that, purely because normally then what happens is, your blood sugars are low, you're feeling cranky. I know I have a lot, Terry, if you're still on, a lot of fighters, when they're trying to cut weight and stuff like that, they tend to be quite, cranky and things like that. Even right now, Ramadan, for all my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters out there, you're probably fasting right now, and I know, it can be quite taxing on the individual, because, our brains like to use sugar as a source of fuel, don't they? And when you're fasting or creating a deficit, you're not getting as much as you need, which is why you have to be clever about how you create a deficit. This is where the industry of diets came about, because of experimenting with different ways to create deficit whilst making sure that the individual is feeling okay. Because for most people who diet or try to lose weight, I find the number one big issue they express is hunger, that issue with satiety. That's usually what the bigger problem is. And that's where, again, this idea of deficit then comes in, and it's about how you create that deficit. And I know a lot of people love the intermittent fasting and things like that, but again, I will come to that. But I think it was quite important here to note, like I said, 500 calorie deficit, then you're losing 1 to 2 pounds. That's usually a good number. As I said, anything more, it's not sustainable. It's actually not sustainable, because it requires discipline, and a lot of the time it's just not fun. Because we have to remember, guys, food is a very big part of our culture, isn't it? And that's why with my clients, I try not to do things that are drastic, because I don't want to take that away from you. Because if you really think about it, right, whenever you went away for, I don't know, your first date, you probably went out for a drink of food. Birthday cake, we usually are having food, aren't we? Deaths, wakes, it's food and drink. When you get together, lockdown right now, the first thing everybody's trying to do is go to the beer gardens and the pubs, and even I want to take my wife out for some food. You see, food is a very big important part of culture and civilization and our socializing. So we don't want to really take it away from ourselves, but in the same breath, you want to lose weight, so you want to do that in a really sensible way, don't we? And that's where, like I said, you have to understand that whenever you've ever lost weight, you lost it through creating a calorie deficit. The key is to understanding which way are you going to create a deficit that works for you. That's really the key. Let me just pause and see if anybody's commenting, saying anything. I have a tendency to miss comments, you see. But not today. I'm going to take a minute to just have a look and see if anybody is saying anything or has any questions. Please bear with me. But yeah, so far, is everybody with me with this idea of deficit? Are you guys with me? Are you with me? Okay, let's have a look. Is there any comments? Anybody said anything? No, we're good. We're good. Okay. Let me get back to it. Let's get back to it. So, talking about the deficit, best way to create this idea of calorie deficit. So the first thing obviously you want to be doing is, like I said, you want to calculate how many calories you need just to maintain, to survive. That would be the first key, because if you don't know what that is, you don't know what your deficit is, because obviously the opposite for that would be surplus. This rule applies for anybody who may be trying to put on weight, by the way. If you're trying to gain weight, same rule applies. You want to be having more calories than you need to actually maintain. Let's just make sure I'm still live on Facebook. I don't want to lose anybody. Okay. Let me know you can still see me, guys, if you're on Facebook, please. Okay. Now, once you've calculated, whether you use a calculator or if you really want to be specific, or you have a professional like myself who can support you and do it manually, There's a couple of equations that are used to actually calculate that for you. And then once you know what that maintenance number is, that's where then we can go under and create a deficit. So say for example, for Bob, calculate, his maintenance figure is 2,000 calories. So what we want to be doing then is, knocking 300 to 500 calories in terms of his daily intake. Then we know he's going to be losing 1 to 2 pounds. Now, in terms of the actual way to actually do that, this is where this idea of the various different diets comes in and how to do it. And this is where I wanted to share with you guys my top 7 ways of actually doing that. Okay, so the first one would be portion size. So number 1 way to make sure that you're watching this, watching your deficit, or you're creating a good deficit, is portion size. Watch your portion sizes, because obviously the bigger the portion is, the more calories the meal has. It's really that simple. So you want to make sure that you're watching your portion sizes. And there's obviously different ways of watching your portion size, and also it's about specifically in terms of your portion size, watching those food groups. And usually for most people, it's usually the carbohydrates they tend to go over on, that being, so things like your pastas, your rices, your potatoes, that's where people tend to go over. That one, you want to be reducing that, and yeah, just watch your overall portion size. This idea of, we feel like we always have to eat until we're full. You don't actually. Sometimes just eat enough, and then put the fork and knife down. We're not animals. Anyone have any dogs, any pets? You ever notice if you put the food down, they will just keep eating and eating and eating until they're... Yeah, no, we're not animals. We need to practice self-control, mindfulness, and just put the fork and knife down when you feel like you're satiety. There's something called a hunger scale, right? 1 to 10. 10 being feeling full, you feel sick. 5 being just right. You want to be between sort of, your 4s and your 7s. And then number 2, watch the extras. Watch the extras. This is where the weight really tends to creep up. I noticed that with myself. I was terrible for condiments, if I'm completely honest with you. So things like, your ketchup, your mayonnaises, your barbecue sauces, literally 1 squeeze of this, that's an extra 100 calories. 1 squeeze of that, that's an extra 100 calories. It's really that easy. And then obviously sugary drinks as well. Even juices. I know a lot of people, oh yeah, have a fresh juice, like I'm being healthy. You got to watch that, because those are very empty calories, as they're called. They're very easy to consume, but they don't actually add any value to your diet. They don't give you any nutrients, they don't give you anything. So you want to be watching those as well. And then number 3 way to help yourself get into a calorie deficit is to create a fasting window. This is where I am absolutely an advocate of intermittent fasting. A lot of studies have actually shown that people who fast actually tend to live longer and things like that. And I know, again, there's so many different fasting windows that you can use. 16-8 being one of the most popular ones. And then you can do alternate day fasting if you wanted. Definitely makes a big difference, because remember, it takes energy to make energy. And if you're constantly consuming, your body's constantly working. And there's other benefits, of course, to fasting. I mean, I'm a big advocate of fasting. For those who know, I did a 7-day fast. I like to do a regular sort of 1 to 3 day fast every odd month if I can, just to press reset. But creating a fasting window is usually a good one, because if you're doing like 16-8, there's only so much food you can actually consume within that window, remember. Only so much food you can consume. So I would also recommend having a fasting window if you want to help create a deficit for yourself. That's usually one of the easiest ways to create deficit. And then number 4, I would always recommend meal planning. Meal planning is absolutely key and pivotal, because what this is where, like, I take my hat off to bodybuilders, if I'm honest with you, because these guys are disciplined. These guys literally, their way of thinking is so different. They see food first and foremost as fuel, whereas the average person is usually led by pleasure of the senses, that being, taste buds, yeah. Nah, you have to. And meal planning is key, because then this is all I'm eating, and that's it. Because usually when you meal plan, if you're taking it to the next level, then you know how many calories are in that food you're consuming, and you know that you can't go around Susan's and she offers you, a cup of tea and a cake. That's not part of your calorie intake, because if it is, then you best be making sure you're skipping something else after to compensate for those additional calories that you've just gained. Meal planning is really, really, really important. And then tip number 5, I would suggest, in terms of watching portion size on your plate, you increase your fibre and you increase your protein. because those two things are going to save you when it comes to hunger. Most people tend to actually complain about satiety and hunger. Well, protein and fiber will keep you fuller for longer. It's really that simple. The way fiber works is literally, it has, if anyone's got chia seeds at home, right? Try this as an experiment. Get a tablespoon of chia seeds, put them in a glass of water, mix it up, leave it for about half an hour, come back and look at that. Literally swells up, literally. It's a really, really great one. And the way fiber works is, say for example, if I had a cup and I put some oats in there and I put some milk and then I pour that through a sieve, what would happen? Milk would just run through, right? Whereas if I cook the porridge and I put that through the sieve, it would struggle to come out. And that's the action of fiber within your stomach. It swells up, and then literally, remember, your brain and your gut communicate. And if, you know, you're feeling full, your brain's like, yep, we're full. Okay, cool, we're done. That's the key. Protein, fiber, increase those. And fiber, in terms of increasing that, the simplest way to increase fiber, guys, is quite simply have more veg, have more fruit. Eat the skin on your apples, your pears, even your potatoes, jacket potatoes, things like that. Eat more fiber. We're supposed to actually have about, on average, 26 to 28 grams of fiber per day. And the average person actually usually consumes less than 15. This is why one of the top 5 problems I notice when I speak to a lot of patients is they can't go for number 2. They struggle with that, you see. Yeah, because you don't have enough fiber. Have more fiber, increase your protein as well. That will definitely help in terms of the satiety and therefore helping you maintain a calorie deficit is what I say. And then the next one, number 6, drink more water. You see, this is so underrated. Something so simple and also has so many other benefits. I always recommend to all my clients, as soon as you wake up, you open your eyes, drink a pint of water, have a bottle of water on the side of your bed, because again, that helps. Because a lot of the time I find people think they're hungry. You're not hungry, you're either bored or you're thirsty. And usually I find it's usually thirst. People are usually thirsty is what I find. So always try to make sure you're drinking more. And also, I've come to find a lot of my patients, when I encourage them to drink more, it's, you know, they seem to actually lose more weight, because also, you know, it helps just flush things out in terms of, obviously, urine is a detoxification pathway, isn't it? So naturally, drink more water, guys, especially now the weather's changing and stuff. And the simplest way, if you struggle, is I say just drink a big pint first thing in the morning. If you don't like water, I always recommend just get some squash, like a dilute juice. That's still, you know, getting you drinking more, is the way I see it. So that's a really great one as well to do. And then the last one, move more. Because what happens is, if you're moving more, you're burning a lot more calories. And I have a lot of clients who are very active. So naturally, whenever I calculate their macros and their calorie intake, it's going to be quite high. And someone will be like, whoa, that's a lot. But usually I'll split the macros accordingly. And the calorie intake is higher because they're burning more. So they need that fuel, don't they? Simple as. So yeah, moving more will also help. You don't necessarily need to move to create a deficit, but the benefits obviously of moving around more are not just burning calories, but also you know, just releasing those feel good hormones and just making sure, you know, you got to keep the body moving, guys. You got to keep moving. So that's I think that's a really, really important one to note down as well in terms of creating that deficit. But it's not the only one, because remember, a lot of the time people rely so heavily on just moving around. Remember, 70% diet, 30% fitness. It's easy to work out 1 hour a day, but for the other 23 odd hours, what you're putting in your mouth, that's a different story when it comes to the level of discipline that's required, guys. Remember that, okay? So yeah, that is my top 7 tips on how to create a calorie deficit. Because remember, there's only one way on this planet to lose weight: calorie deficit. And all of these diets, potions, pills, things like that, they're just you trying to find a way to get yourself in calorie deficit that's conducive for you, your lifestyle, and your circumstances. Really that simple. You know, somebody who works night shifts versus an athlete, you know, different. And we talked about all of those different factors that also contribute to actually how many calories an individual needs, that being our gender, our age, our level of physical activity, you know, which then we're talking about the type of job you do, how much you work out, your body composition, all of that kind of stuff. But honestly, if anybody tries to sell you another diet, please just remember, okay? Don't be sold. Just remember, they're just trying to get you in calorie deficit. Question is that in a way that you want, okay? And I'll put this all in the caption. I've shared the top 7 ways to help you get into calorie deficit. But just remember, the key is knowing where to start first and foremost. But we're nearly done, so I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions. Anybody out there got any questions, any thoughts you want to share with me? You want to tell me what diets you guys may have tried before, so I can myth bust them and tell you what really happened. You know, it's like things like keto. People be peddling keto and things like that. It's like, yeah, it's just getting you into deficit because, you know, you're consuming higher fat and therefore you're feeling full of longer. It's not really rocket science or special, if I'm completely honest with you. Really that simple. But more times, it's discipline, guys. It's discipline. You've got to be disciplined. So just to recap, my top 7 tips on how to get yourself in calorie deficit. Number 1, watch your portion size. Number 2, watch those extras, that being, you know, the condiments, the sugary drinks. Number 3, create a fasting window that works for you. Number 4, make sure you're meal planning. Meal plan. If you fail to prepare, prepare to fail, as they say. Number 5, increase your fibre as well as your protein. Number 6, drink more water. Drink more water. And then number 7, just make sure that you're moving around more. You'll be surprised at the additional benefits as to doing something as simple as moving around more. But that is Top Tip Tuesday, guys. Those are my top tips for you. I hope you found that helpful. There is an article to accompany this that I've written for the blog with a little bit more detail if anybody is interested. Other than that, that has been Top Tuesday, guys. I will be back again next week, same time. Pick another topic. Feel free if you want to share a particular subject or topic. I'm more than happy to explore that. By all means, just send me your questions, and I'm happy to do that. I see there's maybe 1 or 2 people there. I don't know if you guys have got any questions. Any questions? If not, well, I'm going to try and be a really punctual guy and finish on time. But yeah, this has been Top Tip Tuesday. My name is Genesis, aka the Nutri Guy. Thank you so much for joining me. And yes, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Other than that, thank you guys and have a good evening. I'll see you all next week. Bye.